All right, so get ready because today we are going deep on something that I think everybody remembers, the Will Smith Oscar slap.
Oh, yeah, everybody remembers that.
But you've probably heard all the takes on it already, and that's not what we're doing today.
Right.
We're going to be looking at it through the lens of Rob Schneider.
Very specific lens.
Yeah, specifically a YouTube video called He's a Liar. Rob Schneider exposes Will Smith for Oscar slap.
Right. From the channel. Right report.
So I guess for anyone out there who needs a refresher, what happened was back at the 2022 Oscars, Will Smith, walks on stage and slaps Chris Rock.
After that joke about Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah, and we're not here to like relitigate all of that, but what's interesting is how Schneider uses this incident to dissect Will Smith.
Yeah, he uses it to really analyze Will Smith's persona.
Right, he's looking at this like nice guy image that we all know Will Smith for and asking, did that actually help him escape consequences?
And I mean, that's a valid question to ask. Do you think any other celebrity would have gotten away with that?
That's a great question, and it makes you think about, the power of fame.
The power of public image, for sure.
Yeah, so not only that, but Schneider, he doesn't hold back. He calls Will Smith a liar and a fraud.
He does not mince words.
Yeah, he says this whole incident, it was like a crack in the facade.
A crack in this carefully constructed persona that Will Smith has been putting forward all this time.
Right. So Schneider's perspective, it raises all sorts of questions about double standards.
Especially in Hollywood.
Yeah. He even suggests that maybe the Academy, they were afraid to take action against Will Smith because, of the optics.
Right, so that they wouldn't be seen as being insensitive.
Exactly. And then, another thing that I remember just thinking, wow, this is crazy, is how Will Smith, he refuses to leave after the slap.
Oh, yeah.
He just stays there, and he accepts his award and then celebrates backstage.
And the video does a really good job of contrasting this with how shaken Chris Rock was.
Right, like you could see on his face how much it affected him.
And, Denzel Washington was there, too, and he was trying to counsel Will Smith.
Yeah, he even gave him that famous advice. At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you.
It's pretty powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really makes you think. And it also brings up these power dynamics.
No? Yeah.
Like here's Will Smith at the peak of his career versus Chris Rock, who's totally caught off guard.
And the video talks about bottled rage. And you know how that could apply to Will Smith.
It's like, could this have been building up for years?
Right. And what about the whole entanglement situation? Did that have anything to do with it?
It makes you wonder if the slap was really just about the joke or if it was something much deeper.
And this is where it gets even more interesting because Chris Rock actually turned the whole thing into a $4 million Netflix deal.
He did, you're right, for his comedy special, Selective Outrage.
It's like he turned lemons into lemonade.
He really did, and it's fascinating how he used humor to process this incredibly public and painful experience.
Yeah, and, he took back control of his narrative.
It's a very different approach than Will Smith, who went the route of apologies and trying to fix his image.
Yeah, very different approaches, and it really makes you consider how people cope with these things.
This deep dive is making me rethink everything I thought I knew about the Oscar slap. And I'm really interested to explore what it says about Hollywood itself.
Yeah, me too.
Like, how does this incident reflect on the whole industry?
That's a big question.
It is, and it's one we're going to tackle head on.
Let's do it. It really does make you think about the whole system, doesn't it? Like Schneider, he argues that Hollywood, it's all about image over authenticity.
Yeah.
And that puts so much pressure on these celebrities to keep up a certain persona.
Right. Like they have to play this role all the time.
Exactly. And sometimes, those facades, they crack and the consequences can be huge.
It makes you wonder how many other celebrities are out there struggling with this, like trying to balance their public image with what's really going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in all the glitz and glamour, but we forget that these are real people with real problems.
Right. And they have feelings too.
And the pressure to keep up appearances, it can be crushing.
It's almost like everyone's walking on eggshells.
And when someone messes up, it can be really hard to come back from that.
Yeah, just look at what happened to Will Smith's career.
Oh, yeah. He faced a lot of backlash.
People questioning his character, his judgment.
And it started a huge conversation about violence and toxic masculinity.
It's interesting, though, how the video almost portrays Chris Rock as the victim.
Right.
Like he was the one who got assaulted, and yet he's the one who turned it into something positive.
He really did. And I think that speaks to his resilience.
And his sense of humor.
For sure, he used comedy to cope with this horrible experience.
And he took back control.
Exactly.
Which is so different from Will Smith, who went the apology route, trying to save face.
Two very different approaches.
It makes you think about how people deal with trauma differently.
Yeah, some people face it head on, others try to bury it.
It's almost like their responses to the slap were a reflection of their entire careers.
I never thought about it like that.
Right. Like Chris Rock, he's always been willing to tackle tough topics.
And Will Smith, he's always been this carefully crafted movie star.
This whole deep dive is really making me rethink the Oscar slap. And, if we step back from the individuals involved, what does this say about us as a society?
Ooh, that's a big one.
I know, right? Like, are we okay with violence?
Is there ever a justification for it?
How do we balance accountability with forgiveness?
And what does it even mean to be a good person these days?
It's like this whole incident. It became a mirror reflecting our own values.
And our anxieties.
Exactly, like what we see in it, what we take away from it says more about us than it does about Will Smith or Chris Rock.
That's deep.
It is, right? In Schneider's perspective, It really highlights this dark side of Hollywood.
Yeah, like all this pressure to be perfect, it's bound to create problems.
Where do we go from here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about, and, sometimes there aren't any easy answers. And that's okay. Like, this whole deep dive, it's not about finding solutions. It's about having these tough conversations.
Right. I mean, when we started this, I thought we'd just be talking about, celebrity scandal.
Oh, yeah.
But it's gone so much deeper than that it's made me question everything.
Yeah, me too.
Like all my assumptions about Hollywood, about fame, about, just the pressure to present a certain image to the world.
And that's the thing. When you analyze something from a different perspective,
right,
it can really challenge your beliefs, make you see things in a new light.
In Schneider's critique, you don't have to agree with everything he says, but it definitely makes you think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like it's a reminder that Hollywood, it's a different world,
No, it operates under different rules, for sure.
A world where image is everything.
And where the line between reality and performance gets really blurry.
Right. And that can have consequences for everyone, not just the celebrities.
So for our listeners out there, if you're thinking, wow, this is really interesting, where should I go next?
Yeah. Where can people learn more about this?
Well, if you want to hear more from Rob Schneider himself,
Yeah.
He's got a lot of other work out there.
Yeah.
And he's been pretty vocal about his opinions on Hollywood, so that might be a good place to start.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how his views on this whole Will Smith thing fit into his larger critique.
And beyond Schneider, there's a whole conversation happening about toxic masculinity and emotional repression.
Right, like all these themes that we've been talking.
Exactly. And there are some amazing books and articles and documentaries out there that go really deep into these issues.
That's a great point. And, for anyone who's ever felt pressure to hide their true selves,
yeah,
I think these resources can be really helpful.
It's important to remember that this deep dive wasn't about, condemning Will Smith or Chris Rock.
Great.
It was about using this incident to look at our culture.
Yeah, like the bigger picture.
And to recognize that, things aren't always so simple.
There's always more to the story.
And sometimes just asking the questions is enough.
So to all our listeners out there.
Should keep the conversation going.
Yeah, share your thoughts, your questions, your own interpretations of what happened.
Because that's what this is all about, getting people thinking.
And maybe even changing the way we see the world.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.